When Daniel Lavi approaches the passport control desk at Tehran's Imam Khomeini Airport, his heartbeat has to remain steady. He hands over a document identifying him as Reza Husseini, a young Iranian student returning from Turkey. The border guard stamps it, admitting an undercover Mossad operative into the country. Building this identity took months of meticulous digital forgery. Half a year before Daniel's flight, hackers operating from an apartment in Romania infiltrated national databases, quietly planting university records and personal histories to ensure the system would recognize Reza Husseini when he arrived. Israel possesses some of the most sophisticated signals intelligence in the world, capable of tapping phones and tracking satellite movements. But digital surveillance cannot predict the dynamics of organic street protests or identify unlisted organizers. To map an underground movement, Mossad took the extreme risk of placing a human operative on the ground. The entire mission rests on a fragile foundation. The real Reza Husseini died in a car crash in Turkey 4 years ago. The Turkish bureaucracy never forwarded the death certificate to Tehran, leaving a gap in the records. But Reza's mother is still alive, living in North Tehran, and she knows perfectly well that her son is dead. To navigate this threat, Mossad built a firewall into Daniel's cover story. He operates under the narrative that he had a bitter falling out with his family years ago over strict religious disagreements. This provides a socially acceptable reason to entirely avoid the northern neighborhoods, where he might be recognized by the one person who could expose him. Daniel has exactly 58 hours to establish connections before major demonstrations ignite across the city. A single flaw in the digital paperwork, or an accidental encounter with someone who knew the real Reza, guarantees immediate capture, interrogation, and imprisonment in Evin prison. Daniel bypasses the heavily scrutinized wealthy districts and immediately anchors his identity at a working-class mosque in South Tehran. The regime strictly polices secular dissent, but it leaves a slight margin of tolerance for criticism expressed through a religious framework. Playing the role of a devout student concerned about corruption, Daniel asks probing questions to safely identify locals sympathetic to the upcoming protests. To extract intelligence, he relies on a seemingly standard religious application installed on his phone. Built with a backdoor by Unit 82000, selecting specific verses encrypts GPS coordinates and network structures, looking completely innocent to any counterintelligence officer. But flawless street-level tradecraft offers no defense against an automated digital dragnet. Inside the Ministry of Intelligence, an analyst named Mariam Eskandari specifically hunts for timeline anomalies in visa applications. She pulls Reza Husseini's file. The university enrollment dates align, but a deep cross-reference reveals a 4-year-old Turkish traffic report listing a young Iranian man killed in a collision. The name is identical, and the date directly contradicts the passport records, showing Reza Husseini re-entering Iran 3 days ago. Daniel can master the exact physical rhythm of prayer and smoothly navigate street checkpoints, but he cannot erase a bureaucratic contradiction. While he maps the protest networks, an Iranian intelligence analyst is silently verifying that the man he's pretending to be is a ghost. The 58-hour clock expires. Protests erupt across South Tehran, with thousands of people demanding jobs and freedom. In the chaos, Daniel links up with Yasmin, a genuine protest coordinator who manages safe houses and medical supplies for the demonstrators. Daniel's phone vibrates with a status update request from his handlers, but he ignores it. He watches the crowd, then grabs a pen and a scrap of paper. He draws a map for Yasmin, marking an unmonitored side street that bypasses the incoming security forces, actively using his tactical training to help her avoid the very regime he was sent to observe. The government crackdown is immediate. Plainclothes officers target the organizers, while heavily armed Revolutionary Guard units advance to shatter the demonstrations. Choked by tear gas, Daniel and Yasmin guide dozens of fleeing protesters down the narrow alleyway he suggested, barricading themselves inside a crowded third-floor apartment acting as a makeshift safe house. Mariam Eskandari arrives at the building with an armed team, methodically checking IDs. When she reaches Daniel, she photographs his document. Her phone alerts her immediately. The face of the man standing in front of her is the exact match for the anomaly flagged at the airport. Watching the raid unfold through Daniel's streaming camera, Tel Aviv executes an extreme contingency. 3 blocks away, an abandoned car detonates. The massive explosion triggers instant panic over the radio, forcing Mariam and her guards to abandon the ID checks and rush toward the blast zone. To save their operative, Mossad was forced to detonate explosives inside the Iranian capital. The distraction provides Daniel with a 3-minute window to vanish into the streets before the apartment is cordoned off. Daniel's escape is a grueling 12-hour journey. He uses a public payphone to trigger an extraction protocol, meets a contractor in a crowded subway, and is driven north for a wilderness crossing into Azerbaijan. Only then is he flown to Tel Aviv for a 47-hour debrief, providing Israeli intelligence with unprecedented data on Iranian protest networks. On the ground in Tehran, the regime successfully crushes the demonstrations within a week through mass arrests and lethal force. 3 weeks later, someone from the safe house breaks under interrogation. Yasmin is arrested, betrayed by an informant in her own network, and spends the next 2 years inside AgentXFiles. She serves her sentence believing she fought alongside a brave compatriot. She will never know that the ally she trusted in that alleyway was actually a foreign intelligence officer using her grassroots network as an operational shield. Espionage relies on the justification of national security to bend the rules of engagement. But perfect tradecraft requires extracting information from people who don't know they are giving it. It manipulates genuine civic anger and exploits trust, leaving invisible scars on the exact resistance movements it claims to study.